This is Sports Drive.
Welcome back into Sports Drive once again. I'm your host, Preston Moore. I mentioned earlier in the show we would be talking a little bit of WT softball. They've gotten off to an incredible start this season, 20-1 in their first 21 games and 12-0 in conference play. Perhaps more importantly, really strong start to the season. They've got a series this upcoming weekend at Oklahoma Christian. Joining me to talk about the Lady Buffs softball team is their head coach, Michael Mook. Coach Mook, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to be here.
I would imagine you're doing pretty good considering all those things I just listed off. 20-1 to start the year, 12-0 in conference play, 16-game win streak, undefeated at home and away. Your only loss on a neutral field. So when it comes to all of those things, when you hear those numbers rattled off, I know that a lot of times coaches you guys focus on, the next task. You just focus on what's ahead. And you don't really think about those things. But when I say those numbers and when I list off those statistics, what do you feel about your team? I mean, what's going through your head when you hear those things? Really a strong start to the year.
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, it sounds great. Again, I think you're exactly right. We're kind of just focused on the next games. We really don't take a ton of time to reflect on that in season. Usually that's something we do after the season's over. But I mean, as you say it sounds good. I definitely am not complaining at all.
What do you think it is about your team that's led to this start? Because obviously, non-conference plays one thing, but then to go into the Lone Star Conference, a very competitive conference, and start off undefeated, especially with that opening series, it was a couple weeks ago, about a month ago now actually, but against UT Tyler, number 6 UT Tyler, to sweep them is a big deal in and of itself, and then to pick up all the wins you've had since. I mean, what do you think it is about this year's team that's led to this early success?
They've just been very consistent, and not just playing in games, but consistent in their way they practice every single day. They show up and work hard. A lot of hard work and a lot of effort and energy and consistency and all that kind of stuff is really what's led them to get off to as strong a start as they have right now.
Well, offensively, you guys have been really lighting it up, and defensively as well. But offensively, 5 out of your last 6 games, you've had 8 runs or more, with 2 of those games being over 10 runs, and one of them you even hit 20. Offensively, what's clicking for you guys right now? Obviously, the bats are hot.
Yeah, I mean, hitting's just one of those things when things are working well. You just kind of ride the wave, I mean, we faced the preseason pitcher of the year in the conference last weekend and hit well. I mean, she still got us a few times and stuff like that. But again, against a really dominant pitcher, a really good pitcher, I thought our kids had some real quality at bats. Just went up, swinging at good pitches, weren't chasing pitches out of the zone. Had a plan when they went up there, and then when they got the pitch they're looking for, they attacked it and they hit it well for the most part.
Definitely. Well, you guys have Oklahoma Christian up next, and this is a team that last year, if I'm not mistaken, they handed you your only home loss of the year last year. Now, this series isn't at home. It's not at Schaefer Park. You guys will be over at Oklahoma Christian this time, but is there a sense of revenge when it comes to this game, this series, when your girls think about, any of the girls that were on the team last year, remembering that loss being the only time you guys lost all year at Schaefer Park?
Yeah, I mean, they're a good team. So, I mean, anytime we're playing them, we know it's going to be a battle. We know we're going to have to bring our A game. We know that they're well coached, that there are a lot of good athletes on their team. They can pitch, they can hit, they can run the bases, they play good defense. They're kind of a similar team to us in a lot of aspects. I think it's going to be a really good matchup, especially we're on the road. So it's always a little bit more challenging when you're on the road. But we had to move our games from Friday, Saturday to Saturday, Sunday because of weather. So hopefully that'll give us a little bit more of a chance to prepare. But we know that it's going to be a battle because they're going to be preparing for another day too.
When you do have that extra day of preparation, moving the games back one day, obviously it's a slight shift, just one day backwards. But at the same time, I feel like that sort of a shift can sometimes really make a big difference when you get into the routine of a season and the grind and just the same amount of days in between every series. You're used to this schedule, and then all of a sudden an extra day of rest, an extra day of preparation. Do you think that can really change things maybe a little bit more than people think, or do you not really think of it that much?
I mean, I think if you take advantage of it, it can definitely be an advantage. But at the same time, I know they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be working hard and preparing for us, and gives them another day to prepare for us. So, yeah, I think it kind of all balances out in the end as long as both teams are as competitive as we are and they are. So, I think we'll try to use it to our advantage, but in the end, both teams are getting an extra day of practice and the extra day of rest and everything, so we got to bring it.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to playing on the road, obviously I mentioned last year you guys had an incredible home campaign, 28-1 on the year. On the road, it's always a little bit more difficult for any team in any sport. How do you guys go about adjusting to those sorts of things, especially knowing how dominant you've been at home over the course of the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's always great to play at Schaefer Park with the fans in the stands and just our home facilities and being on our home field and all that kind of stuff. But we also know that you're going to have to go on the road and you're going to have to play against some good teams. And we've had a chance to get on the road a little bit early in the season and just play on a different surface with a different field, different environment. And we know it's important to come out and play good defense. That's really where it starts at. If you can start off and play good defense, then you really only have to win one of the two things, pitching or hitting. And if we can be as consistent as we've been at those things, I think we'll be okay. But the biggest thing is just defensively, is making sure we show up defensively, ready to play every single pitch. Because a team like that, they're going to jump on you, and if you give them an opportunity to take an extra out or something like that, it's going to come back and get you in the end.
Definitely. Well, when it comes to your team specifically, lots of great players on your team, lots of players playing their best softball right around this time of year right now. One of those being Lauren Granger, the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, named the sophomore D2 Player of the Week, Louisville Slugger / NFCA D2 Player of the Week. This is the second time this season that someone on your team has earned that honor. Just last month, Diana Murtha earned the award. What can you say about those two girls and how they've been playing?
Yeah, they've been playing excellent, along with a lot of the kids on our team. But Lauren really was on fire this last week. Hit the ball really well, again, against a really dominant pitcher. She had some nice, solid hits against her in a few of the games. She's been batting leadoff for us, so she kind of gets the momentum going for us when you can start off the game with a nice, solid hit. Not only does that give it encouragement for the next batter, but it also, even just for the pitcher, they got to start to wonder if, this team's on to kind of what I'm throwing, different things like that. So I think it's really good to have somebody that strong in the leadoff spot. I definitely think that's been a huge part of our offense, and just hitting's kind of contagious sometimes when one person hits and then everybody else is like, okay, it's easy. Let's just do what they did. And then it just kind of takes off from there. It's really not easy, but just mentally sometimes that first person getting a hit can change the game a little bit.
Right, definitely. And it's not easy, but it can kind of almost trick your guys or your girls into the right way and thinking it might be a little bit easier than it is, and all of a sudden when you believe that, it becomes easier. We talk about, obviously, Granger, Murtha. You've got two great hitters on your team, but you've got also a lot of great other players on your team, hitters, pitchers. Are there any players over the course of the last few days specifically that have stood out to you, who have been making that in-season improvement that you like to see?
Yeah, a lot of them have. It's hard to pick a player. I could go all the way through the lineup as you're asking that question. I'm just kind of picturing players in I could go all the way down through our lineup. I think everybody's kind of had their moment that they've stepped up. We've had some young kids step up and get some big hits for us when we really needed it. We've had some players that have been around for a couple of years that have stepped up and had some big hits for us. I think our pitching staff's doing really well. And just to be able to keep some of the teams that we've played down offensively, that's huge, and then defensively, that's kind of our staple. Is we've really played good, solid defense. But I think Madison Johnson's had some good hits for us. Batting behind D, sometimes she gets walked a little bit, so it's important for her to come through when they do walk her to come up with a big hit for us. And she's had quite a few of those, so it almost motivates her, I think, a little bit more when they do walk Diana in front of her, knowing that it's her chance to step up and kind of prove a point that we want to have the bat in her hand too. So, yeah, I think a lot of people have stepped up for us, though.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Mook, we want to thank you for joining the show. Obviously, really appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit of WT softball. Great start to the season once again. 20-1, 12-0 in conference play, 16-game win streak. Hoping to continue that win streak this weekend in Oklahoma City on Saturday against Oklahoma Christian. We'll have coverage on News Channel 10 on the weekend edition of these games as we go forward. Coach, once again, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and best of luck this upcoming weekend.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back with more Sports Drive right after this break.